Oh, we've made some really impressive strides since the first practice. It is not easy when a new staff takes over and you're implementing a new offense, a new terminology, and all those different things. That's a challenge. I think that's why one of the most underrated qualities of a football program is just continuity within your staff, because you're not having to start from scratch every during the spring like we are. But the guys are putting the time in. We're able to track how much film that they watch on their own, how much time they spend in their playbook. Everything's digital now, so we're able to track that. So the guys are putting the time in, and but you can put as much time into it as you want. But at the end of the day, it's about physically performing the reps. So we still got a long ways to go, but the guys are putting the time in, and I've been pleased with how much improvement we've seen since day one.
Being able to track how much time they're spending, is that new to y'all, or is that something you had at Coastal the last couple of years?
So when during 2020, during the COVID season, we opted for not having a physical playbook anymore. We started using this software called Just Play, and so all of our offensive playbook, terminology, play diagrams, everything is sent directly to their phones or to their tablets, or they can pull it up on their laptop. And so that was obviously a huge benefit for us during the COVID season, as far as installing and implementing your offense to your new players. But we've seen the benefits even past COVID, when everything kind of went back to normal. It used to be, we had position meetings with the players this morning. We've got practice here in 15 minutes. It used to be you'd show up for that position meeting in the morning, and you would install it, and hopefully they retain the information. You go out and perform it. Now we send it to them. Malcolm Dixon, our offensive analyst, and Tyler Chadwick, they send everything to them the night before at about 7 o'clock, so they get the install, they get the script, so they can put in as much time as they want to. And the guys that have probably made the biggest leaps and function at the highest level from a mental standpoint are the ones, when you go back and you look at it, this guy's put in X amount more time than the rest of the guys in his position group. So that's a big advantage, and I think the biggest challenge is once you get to a certain point where you feel like you know it, you can't go back on that. It still has to be, okay, I put the time in the night before, so when I get out there and I'm taking the reps, I'm performing, I'm not thinking, I'm reacting.
Do you feel like you've seen a lot of growth in your room of the quarterbacks, being able to do that, to just think or not to think, but just to react?
I think there's still, even though I think they are putting the time in and they are working at it. Like one time, usually it goes out every night at 7 o'clock, and I think it was like 8:15 or 8:30, and Caden Salter sent a group message out like, hey, where's the install? So I think they're putting the time in, but it's still new. It's a different style. There's a lot of carryover from what they did previously and what they're accustomed to. They just called it red before, and we call it blue. You're changing up some of the terminology, but some of the run game obviously is going to be different. Some of the things we do from an RPO standpoint might be a little bit different. So even though they can draw it up and show it to you on a dry erase board, they're still going to be. It's still going to takes a certain amount of reps to get a feel for it and really excel at it. But from when we got here in January to the first day of spring ball to now, I feel like we've been in spring ball for 3 months, by the way. It's like spring camp, but I think we started March 8th or 9th, something like that, which would be, I think Coach Chadwell will do it the same going forward. Usually we go early. We go in February, and we get into it and get it done. But from when we first got here to now, they've made great strides. And it's challenging as a quarterback when you're in a quarterback competition with three other, we got five quarterbacks on the roster. That's not easy. I went through it as a player. Coach Chadwell went through it as a player. It's not easy, going a drive and then waiting for your opportunity again, So we realize all that, and they've handled it really well. There's no complaining. There's no sulking. They're pulling for each other, and so. But there's been a lot of improvement since we began.
Do you feel like anybody has kind of emerged a little bit this spring during practice?
I feel like one day it'll be one or two guys, and then the next day it'll be the one or the other two guys. It just keeps going back and forth. And so I don't think there's been enough by one person to say, hey, this guy has stood out the most. Like I said, it truly, like every single day, there's one or two guys that stand out on Monday's practice, and then Wednesday's practice is two other guys. So it's really back and forth right now.
Maybe like at the end of this spring going into summer? Are you hoping, you and Coach Chadwell hoping to maybe narrow it down to just like 2, maybe 3 guys, or what's your thought process there?
Well, the challenging part right now is we've got a lot of guys that had end-of-season surgeries and different things like that who aren't practicing. So sometimes you're getting a little thin with some of the groups out there that sometimes we like to if we have enough bodies and enough guys, we like to be able to go 2 fields going at once. That's what we did when we were at Coastal, where your 1s and your 3s are on the outdoor practice field and your 2s and 4s are in the indoor practice field simultaneously taking reps. And so that's where you make the most growth, you get the best opportunity to evaluate guys. So I don't know if that's something we'll be able to do during fall camp. I hope it is, just from a quarterback standpoint. Sometimes the receivers coach will roll his eyes a little bit because he's thinking about his receivers running route after route after route, but it's really key for quarterbacks to have all those types of reps. So I think in a perfect world, you'd say, yeah, you tell them exactly where they're at on the depth chart following spring, and that way, your groups are kind of set for fall camp. But I don't know if we're at that point. We still have 3 more practices. You got the spring game. Next week we'll have conversations with those guys and give them some feedback of where they're at. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be year 1, year 2, year 3 because it changes literally every single practice.
Having been through a quarterback competition yourself, what has that process kind of taught you about the mindset that you need to have that you're trying to relay to your guys?
Well, I think a couple things happen when you're in a competition at quarterback. I think there's 1 or 2 things that happen sometimes for a player. One, you're kind of you don't want to make any mistakes, so you're playing a little bit kind of timid and kind of looking over your shoulder, like just I hope I don't make a mistake here. And if you do that, you're not going to play at your best. So we try to emphasize in the meetings, let it rip, let us coach you up, but you don't go out there worried about making mistakes, which is easier said than done. But then I think you have the opposite end of the spectrum where if I really want to stand out, I have to make this play, I have to make every play, and then you're pressing, and then you're making bad decisions, and you're forcing balls into bad looks because if I do complete this, I'll look that much better to the coaching staff. So we've tried to make it abundantly clear to them that there's zero fear of making mistakes. But there's also a big responsibility with the position you play. Make great decisions, and if it's not there, chunking out of bounds is not the worst case situation. So you're trying to battle through those 2 things. I think as a player you do that. So we've tried to emphasize that to them, those types of things. But again, it's easier said than done because as a player you're trying to compete and you want that job, and those guys all want it. But one thing I've been pleased with is when JB makes a big play or something like that, Caden's down there celebrating with him. When Nate makes a big throw, Treylow's down there celebrating with him. So I think they all want the job, but they're respectful of each other's opportunity to compete for it.
And having coached under Coach Chadwell for the majority of your career, what are the biggest lessons he's taught you that have really helped you be a good offensive coach?
Oh, that's a lot of things. I think the one thing that stands out with my relationship with Coach Chadwell is just he's extremely competitive. If you play him in pickup basketball or tic-tac-toe, he's going to try to fight you to beat you. He's extremely competitive, but he never creates an environment as a coach where still enjoying it is not a part of it. He still wants you to have joy while you're playing this game, and I think that's one of the things I admire most about him. He's never lost sight of that. There's some places where we're walking on eggshells because every single day is 4th and 1, and he just doesn't create that type of atmosphere and that type of environment. So hopefully the players feel that. It doesn't mean that it's just all goof around all the time. It's not that. There's a high level of discipline and accountability within the program, but I think he's always done a great job of knowing what his team needs. He knows when the team needs to be pressed and pushed a little bit. He knows when he needs to pull back a little bit to where they're not dreading coming over here. They're not dreading coming to meetings. They're not dreading going to the weight room. They're excited and they enjoy the process of what it takes to win championships.
Coach, we've got a couple people online. Emily, Ed, you guys got any questions for Coach?
Yeah, Coach, one of the things you mentioned right now is obviously just looking at different factors and nobody really separating themselves. Personally, do you look for more in the spring game because of the format, or do you just take that as one part of the data point in the overall evaluation?
I think it would just be another practice 15. You know, you would like to think that it'd be a little bit different because there's going to be people there's going to be family, there's going to be all that. So maybe there's a little bit more pressure to perform. But I wouldn't say that, okay, whoever just plays outstanding in the spring game, that's the guy. It's the kind of complete body of work over 15 practices for us.
And then to follow up on that, how crucial are these next days and obviously next couple of weeks, giving your guys something to consider and data points to consider when they go off on their own over the summer?
Extremely important. I think when we have those end of spring conversations with the quarterbacks and with our players after the spring game next week, you don't want it to be, well, work on this, work on that. Like, we want to try and pull cut-ups of, hey, this is where you struggle. For you to take your next step from after spring until when we begin fall camp, this, 1, 2, 3. These are the 3 main things, and film that backs it up. And I think when you do that, you show the players that, you've actually put the time into, hey, this is where I feel like you can take your next step. I think it becomes a bigger point of emphasis for them, and they'll buy into it. So, we won't rush right into, spring game Saturday and have those meetings on Monday. I'd like to take a couple days of really going through it with Coach Dixon, with Coach Chadwell, and really going back through and watching the film one more time. Okay, this is where this guy struggled. This is where this guy excelled, and giving them concrete things that they need to do to improve on by the end of fall camp. But all those reps, these next 3 practices, are all kind of feeding into that.